yesterday there was an extraordinary moment on this very show when our Wednesday regular Bruno Bouschet made a startling admission. Mental health is an issue we here at the Ben, Rob and Robbo show care very deeply about, and I've asked Bruno back today to continue the discussion. Bruno, yesterday when you came on the show with us, you talked about you were talking about KYLE Sandilands, and then you talked about being in a psychiatric ward.
Yes. So, and the context of it was how important the support I received had been from KYLE. And so, look, I've been struggling with bipolar for, as long as I can remember. And over the past 10 or so years, I've lost count of how many times I've been in various psychiatric wards, probably 12 to 13 times. Look, it's something which, I try not to think about so much, because it's actually very humbling and humiliating. I guess with what I do for work, whether it was when I was a producer or even as KYLE's manager now, I still haven't quite come to grips with it being something I can talk about without feeling like I've gone down a notch or two. And that's irrespective of people saying, no, it's great that you talk about it. Like, I understand that part of it. But even when I mentioned it yesterday to you guys, I sort of thought, should I have taken that back? Look, I'm happy to talk about it.
And look, it's amazing because you've come here today to talk about it again. And that's, I think, very brave of you, because I do believe personally that mental illness is the epidemic in Australia. We're just not talking about it. I couldn't care less about the war on drugs because that's choices people make. But mental illness is something a lot of people are struggling through on various levels, and they're not... they're just not getting people aren't getting the opportunity and the help they need. I'm intrigued, mate. You're known as for your funny lists. I have often said your chats on a Wednesday are one of my favourite segments on the show, because we get to have a lot of fun, and I love looking at the world through your eyes. That high side of you, is that who you pretend to be, or do you go from extremes in between happiness and depression?
So what I've got is bipolar 2, where you don't really experience the highs as someone with bipolar 1 would. So so my high is just feeling happy,
Right.
and then my lows are just awful. And I guess it's my lows that have landed me in psychiatric wards more times than I can remember. But it's interesting that you mention the list stuff, because that came about when my psychiatrist said, look, do you have any hobbies? I said, no, I don't. And he was of the opinion that having a hobby would probably take my mind off the mental things, and I'd be able to channel my emotion into something else. So I thought about, what hobby could I do? And that's how the lists came about, because I like the idea of being creative with putting them together. I like the debate and the argy-bargy that went along with them. And actually, when I came out with my first list with chocolate bars, I was actually in a psychiatric ward during that time, and Ben Fordham had reached out to me and was like, because he was filling in on the Today Show at the time, and he was like, "Hey, you need to come on the show and talk about it." And it took quite a lot of paperwork for me to be allowed out for the 2 hours that I was given to go to the Channel 9 studios at Willoughby to do it. And no one at Channel 9 knew, but there were two nurses waiting in the car out the front, so that they knew where I was going, and they knew that once I was finished, I was walking straight back into the car with them. So, look, funny.
Mate, I've got to say, none of this changes my opinion of you. I think you are amazing and terrific, and I'm just in awe of what you're saying here today. There was the fact that you were forced into psychiatric care intrigues me from the point of view that you were obviously going through a lot, I assume, at the time. Who made that call to put you in there?
It has mostly in the past been a combination of my parents and my wife, and I've got to say, it may sound on the surface like, oh, geez, your wife puts you in the nut hut.
No,
but
I don't think that at all.
The reality is, I'm incredibly grateful. I doubt, in fact. I know I wouldn't be alive had it not been for Laura taking action and getting me the help that I needed, and I guess the ongoing help that I need. Like, I go back to what I said at the start, how for me it's so awkward talking about these things, and as a kind of proud male, I still find it very humbling that 4 times a day I have to take, particular medications, that I can only, I guess, live if I'm taking them. That still hasn't really gelled with me, that concept.
Controversy has followed you throughout your career. You were famously fired from Austereo. Was that a byproduct of your bipolar, and how did it play into your mental health?
Yes, so the two very much are linked. I guess the only thing that I'd just like to say before I get into it is I don't for a second want to make it out like Southern Cross Austereo weren't understanding or
No, you were very public
good
in your support for them, and you said you basically gave them no other choice. They had to do that.
Exactly, yeah. But look, the reality was, I was out of control back then. I wasn't, I thought I was too good to take medication, and I would just indulge the highs. So when I felt amazing, that could end up being a 3 or 4 day bender, and I started to miss.
What did that involve?
Going to work. The benders. Yeah. The benders would involve. Partying all night, drugs, which, by the way, when you're doing breakfast hours, it's not the best thing to have your guest and talent producer walking in with eyes like a possum, sweating and not able to concentrate on his work. So, yeah, look, that definitely added to it. I'd also been spending months back in Brisbane in a psychiatric ward there. So I was unhinged, and I think getting fired was probably the best thing to happen to me. Sometimes when you do hit a bit of a rock bottom, it does give you the jolt that you need. And in my case, it was the jolt that I needed to realise that I can't handle things on my own. Right, I don't have the answers. I've got to make myself vulnerable and receptive to help.
So, I guess I'm getting a sense from you, and you've alluded to it, the uncomfortability you've got talking about it, which makes the fact that you're here talking about it all the more amazing. There still is a big stigma. We can talk all we like about that. Mental health isn't the issue it used to be. But it feels a bit BS to me at times, because I still feel that we're not comfortable talking about mental health when it involves ourselves.
Yeah, you're correct. It is difficult. And I guess this is why we are at the point where we are now, because, one of the big issues of the week was, did KYLE Sandilands address mental illness and what he's going through? Did he address it correctly? And so obviously Angela Mollard, the News Limited columnist, was of the opinion that, no, he didn't address it correctly. And it really is just so difficult, because I have to tell you, when I've been in the many psychiatric wards that I've been, for me, there was nothing that put a smile on my face and gave me a boost like a KYLE phone call, and him talking to me more so as a friend, than someone who would get into feelings, because I can't do feelings. Like, yes, I see a therapist, but I'm probably the worst client that they have, because I just can't open up. But for me, having Kyle on the line, being like, "Hey Bruno, are there many hot chicks in there?" That would that'd make me feel bloody great. Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is, if anyone goes to a psych ward, try to become pen pals with KYLE Sandilands. It'll make things a lot easier.
It's interesting. We talked about this yesterday, but it is fascinating that someone in the press could demand a person be sacked because of the way they handled their own mental illness or the issues they're suffering. I've been thinking about that a lot overnight and been looking at some of the commentary. I'm still a bit stunned that, okay, you didn't like the way Kyle spoke about mental health and his own, but that was his story and that was his story to tell. And to demand that someone who's opened up about mental health, you have just added to the stigma of mental health by saying that, well, if you speak about it, if it's not the PC way of talking about it, you've got to go.
That's right. And Angela Mollard pointed out that because Kyle made a joke that when he had originally spoken about it, he received a lot of mushy messages from people, and he joked, "Oh, I never should have spoken about it in the first place because I'm so uncomfortable with all these messages." And that's where in the article Angela said, "Oh, I can't believe Kyle would have said that he shouldn't have opened up about it. What message does that send to people that are suffering from mental illness?" Now, the extension of that is when Kyle read that article, he said, "You know what? I shouldn't have spoken about it because I am where I am now. I'm being told, get off there because I've become a target. And obviously, I don't know, I've done the wrong thing talking about mental illness." And it was interesting seeing Kyle do that, because in the past, obviously Kyle's been, he's very direct when he addresses media reports, but I think this is one of the first times I'd seen Kyle really speak from the heart. There wasn't this emotion of anger. I thought he was very good at conveying how it made him feel. And I think whether or not you like Kyle, you would have walked away from listening to the segment thinking, he was speaking his truth.
Mate, you are an amazing man, and just to come on and talk about your experiences, I just find compelling, and I'd like to hear more. I'd like to know about what happened inside, how, all that kind of stuff. And, I feel like I've probably intruded a bit too much today, and I do appreciate you coming on. But if you ever want to talk again, because I think this message is so far, and look, we've got the super up on the screen. If you want help or resources, please go to health.gov.au. There's a lot of links to places where you can get information and possible help if you are struggling with your mental health. And I say again, we need to do more. Bruno, you are a legend. Thank you so much for joining us today, mate. I love you.
Hey, thank you very much. I love you guys too. Thank you.
It's the Ben, Rob and Robbo, Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. Ben, Rob and Robbo Show.